Welcome to the Denim and Pearls podcast. Business casual conversation laced with pearls of wisdom. Casual, authentic, unscripted dialogue about life, work, and entrepreneurship with the perfect blend of laughter and seriousness. Pull up a chair, kick back, and lean in as we welcome your hosts, Michelle Ross and Brian Swanson.
Well, howdy.
Hello.
Are you sure? Should we start this all over again?
No. Hello, my name is Michelle Ross.
And I'm Brian Swanson.
We are Denim and Pearls. We are business casual.
With Pearls of Wisdom.
From the
Porch. Something like that. So, what are we talking about today?
On my own.
Oh, you had to start off with song, didn't you?
Once again. It was a number one song from 1986. We graduated in 86.
Did you? I did.
I did.
Oh, but you're still younger than me.
Only by like a couple months.
That's because I was like born in December. I was a late baby.
Yeah.
But I was always on my own. Now that we talk about this, I realize I was always on my own.
What do you mean?
I was raised an only child.
Oh, that is true.
It's really kind of cool to have, when you see these people who have brothers and sisters and they're always fighting and stuff like that. And it's really kind of cool to go, yeah, I don't have to worry about all that. However, on the opposite side of it, that means I was the only one that mom had to deal with. I couldn't get away with anything.
Yeah, I have to say, I had 5 other siblings, so there's 6 of us. It was like half the time my parents would do, didn't the last time you, no, that was on my big brother. But didn't you, no, that was the other brother. No, dang, I was like, nope, that was the sister. And they're like, wait a minute, so what did you do? Nothing.
Yeah, it did absolutely nothing. You could hide behind your other brothers and sisters. Even if you were the oldest, I mean, you can still hide behind.
Well, and that's what's really cool about having.
Well, Johnny doesn't know any better.
Well, no, older siblings is that they've tested the grounds of your parents so much that by the time they got to me and I was the 4th child, they're like, just don't blow up the house. We don't care.
I think that usually happens at number 3, doesn't it?
I was number 4.
Yeah. So at number 3, everybody's kind of like.
Nope, they were still watching her because she was the token girl at the point. So it was boy, girl, 6 years me. So by the time they got to me, they're like, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, go ahead, do whatever you want. As long as you don't blow up the house or
come home covered in blood.
Yeah, just don't break any bones. Or if you do, just get to the hospital, let us know about the bill later. I mean, so being an only child on your own like you were,
yes.
That would be kind of tough because all blame would go to you if anything got dirty. I mean, with us, it was like the dishes in the sink and it wasn't me. And they'd have to go through 5 other siblings to realize that you lied, So
yeah, it takes forever and they give up by that point. But yeah, I got blamed for everything. I got accused of everything, even if the dog did do it. Being an only child, I mean, it has its benefits. I mean, don't get me wrong, because a lot of people think that you get everything because you're the only child. Well, that I think depends on your parents. I mean, your parents are going to make that decision on whether they give you everything or if they give you what you need.
Well, see, and I think it was absolutely fabulous to have a huge family because we are family. I mean, I always had friends, and being a military brat, we were always moving and everyone was always leaving around us. So if we didn't have us, we would be alone until we got to learn or met people. And when I was younger, I wasn't as outgoing as I am today. So I would have been really alone. But with having siblings, my older brother would go meet people. My other brother would meet people. My sister would meet people. And then I was the brat that got dragged around with them. So I always got to meet older
So were
people.
You the older sister?
Eventually.
So, okay. But I was thinking of hand-me-downs.
There's 6.
There was nobody above you to hand down.
Oh, no. There's 6 of us. So I got hand-me-downs from my second brother, not my eldest brother, my second brother, because I could fit his jeans in high school. And I also got the hand-me-downs from my sister. Now, my problem with my sister is she's very tall and lean. Yeah. I fit my brother's clothes better than I fit my sister's clothes. And then I developed fast, so I couldn't wear the top. I couldn't wear her tops or the hand-me-down bras and the hand-me-down socks and I got hand-me-downs, everything.
That's the bad part of being a hand-me-down child.
Yeah, I got everything hand-me-down. But
at least all my stuff was new, or I got it from Goodwill, or I got it from the neighbors.
Well, see, my thing is I like the hand-me-down clothes. You know why? Levi's were really comfy.
Oh, well.
Down.
I was, I don't know if your mom and dad were like this, but when I went through school, I would say probably up to junior high, I couldn't even wear jeans. You didn't wear jeans to school. You wore slacks.
Oh, well, we're in the Philippines. They were lucky if we were wearing tennis shoes. So basically, it was, cut off shorts and flip flops pretty much all the time. And I remember my sophomore year of high school is when I could fit my mother's clothes. And so my mother started giving me her clothes to wear because they were dressier and they were fancier. But I tended to wear shorts and t-shirts because it was the Philippines and it was 120 degrees with 100% humidity.
And snakes.
And spiders.
In the Philippines, a place where they have snakes everywhere?
Snakes and very large bugs.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking of the snakes that crawl up into the electrical systems and screw up is that the Philippines?
No.
It's that other place that the Air Force goes.
Yeah, definitely not the Philippines. No. We had snakes, but our snakes were too big to go into electrical systems. We had like one of the most famous snakes. The base adopted him. It was Charlie the snake. He was like I want to say he was like a 40-foot long python.
He was the mascot.
He was.
Wow.
He was always at everything, and they would feed him gigantic chickens, and he would just go and eat them. And then we would count the bumps inside of his body because he would just eat a chicken, go a little bit, eat another chicken, and they would just be the bumps in his body as he was digesting them. He was huge. Huge. His head was probably like this big. I mean, he was huge. And his mouth would open.
But he was kind of on his own too.
He was on his own because nobody messed with Charlie. He was huge. And I remember looking at him doing, all he had to do was open his mouth and he would eat me whole. He would eat all of us whole. That's why it was good to be very nice to Charlie and give him chickens.
Well, you'd have to be strangled first.
Oh, that's what he did. That's what pythons do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool because.
So what does this have to do with being on my own?
Well, being an only child, I never had to worry about that because I always had older siblings who were going to take care of me in some way, shape, or form. And so when he asked me if I was the oldest, I said, well, eventually. Well, what happened was I was the baby because I have 3 above me, 6-year gap than me. I was the baby. And then 10 years later, my parents had the twins.
Oops.
So made me the middle child, right? The middle child. And then the older 3 were so much older. They moved out, went to college, started their lives. Then I became the older sister. So I was the older sister to the twins. So I've been the baby, the middle, and the oldest, all in the same family.
That's what keeps you diverse.
And that is why I'm such a great coach.
That's why you're such a great person.
I can see it from every point of view.
Well, I was the top, the middle, and the bottom too. I was all at one time,
yourself.
all by myself. I was in charge of me.
Well, what brought this on? I mean, we were talking about on my own because
Why?
you're on your own.
Oh, that's just because you're leaving, but that's
Once
nothing.
again.
That's nothing new.
No, but what we're talking about is when you have a business partner.
Oh, yeah.
How do you handle being on your own? Like if they disappear, if they get sick, or if they have to leave, if they travel a lot. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Well, one of the things, and I think we brought it up a couple episodes ago, but there was an incident here recently where somebody was the owner was out of pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Completely out of pocket. And it was kind of a thing for the general managers in that they could look at it and go, well, we need to know this, and this.
Just in case in the future.
Just in case in the future, because the owner had not actually properly set it up in order to pass it on. So
succession plan.
A succession plan, yes. That's perfect. Some of it too, I mean, if you're business with a partner and you're running a business and it's making money based on you and your partner, are you insured? I mean, we're going to get into that money thing of mine that I do with life insurance. Are you insured? So if that partner goes away, just like if your spouse goes away,
Mm-hmm.
Are you prepared, fiscally speaking, to replace that partner with money?
Well,
or the money can replace the partner.
Something as simple as like with Brian and I on this podcast.
Yeah.
If anything happened to Brian, I would have to hire someone to do all of this tech stuff.
Oh, that's true too.
Because I don't do it.
Right.
And so think about that. Just something as simple as a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to do the level that that you do, Ken can't do it on amplifiers. I can't do it. Brian does it.
I've offered to help,
Yeah, Brian does it all. So if anything happened to Brian, what would happen to Denim and Pearls?
Right.
Would I have to find another Denim Pearl person who was also techie, or would the show go away? Now, the opposite is different. I mean, with us, if I disappear, Brian can keep going.
I can keep going, but it's still not the same. I mean,
It's not the same. Does he have to find another personality like me?
I would have no more pearls.
Oh, you say I'm Pearl?
Yeah. See, I told you I would have no more nothing. I mean, it would be a different show.
It would be a completely different show. So you've got to look at your businesses and think about what
on a higher level when you're thinking about, if you're running a restaurant or if you're any kind of business, honestly.
Yeah. Well, even in life, when we did life insurance, we were looking at all the assessments, and we evaluated my husband, insurance guy, and we're talking, and it's like, okay, without my husband, we need this. He's worth this. If he disappears, this is how much money we need for me to keep everything going. And then they said, well, how much do you need for you? And I said, oh, nothing, because I don't do anything. And they're like, wait a minute, really?
Yeah. And it depends on when it was done, because a lot of times you'll look at it too. The spouse is a stay-at-home spouse. Oh, they don't do anything. Well, if that stay-at-home spouse goes away, male or female, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Whoever the stay-at-home spouse is, if that stay-at-home spouse all of a sudden is out of the picture, who's going to take care of the kids? Yeah. Who's going to babysit the kids? So that means money that you need to replace. They went in
and did all that to replace me as a babysitter, a housekeeper, a cook, a washer, the clean houser. I mean, all of that stuff.
So they covered you for $1.298.
The person who travels back and forth between, I mean, that kind of stuff. But now that we're much older, that assessment would be different. In order to keep that whole household going, without me.
And the same would go with me here. I mean, it's the same thing with me and my wife. I mean, if I go away, there's certain things that I do that she would have to pay for to get done. I mean, she's not going to change her own oil. So now that means she's got to take the car to the.
So if anything happens to you, I'll come and replace you. And if anything happens to me, you come and replace me, and we could make everything work.
Well, this could be interesting. Okay. But that's not a really good insurance policy.
It is not. So you actually need to think about succession planning. I mean, I've been looking at my business, Morass Inc., Michelle Morass Inc., as a speaker, coach, and all that jazz.
Right.
I'm irreplaceable. I'm the commodity of my entire business. And so what my big thing now, I've been talking to Brian in, is how do I multiply myself and make it so that even if I did disappear, got sick, whatever, God forbid, how would this business go for a little bit longer without me?
Right.
I mean, I even have coaches who coach with me, under me. And even with that, I'm still looking at, my company's called Michelle Morass Inc.
Right, it's named after you.
It's kind of gone.
Yeah, the name gets changed and all that kind of stuff, and it kind of starts over. But if you look at some of the, if you look at the fact that there might be an email list, whatever the case may be, that's part of the business.
It's part of the money.
And if you don't have that, well, you need to go back to some of our other episodes.
Yeah, because you can
think about prepping.
Because you can sell your CRM,
right?
And what people don't know is my last name is also another business name. It's called Magnifying Resilient Attitudes for Success. It's what we do at Morass Inc.
Okay, then.
It's kind of big, which is why I never use it.
Right.
It's Morass Inc.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So what, I mean, it comes down to what is our listeners, what are their plans? What are they thinking about? Have they thought about a succession plan? That doesn't mean somebody has to replace you, because nobody can replace you. It just means, how is your business going to continue on without you?
Exactly.
That's really what it comes down to. It doesn't. Nothing else really matters in this statement of what we're talking about being on your own. But it also comes down. It also is another thought process. What happens if your partner goes? Then what do you do? Have you talked to your partner about what you're going to do? And if your partner goes away, what are you going to do, and how are you going to handle it? Do you require money to replace that partner?
Or do you just dissolve it?
Or do you dissolve it?
And you think about all the work you put in.
Well, a lot of times, even in your multi-level marketing stuff, your direct sales stuff, because that's a lot of people we talk to. Even in that case, though, some of them can be passed on depending on your company and what status you're in and stuff like that. But some can be passed on to your spouse, And then what's your spouse going to do?
If your spouse wants to.
If your spouse even wants to.
I mean, does it go to your downline, your upline? I mean,
Right.
what happens?
I mean, I can think of one friend of ours in Denver that's in the same situation. Husband was an insurance guy. Now she's in the insurance business because
Well, she was already
Succession.
in the insurance
Right.
business, and so she just took over. She just
right. But she had to take over at a whole different level
Mhm.
because now she had to work for two,
Mhm.
In order to maintain the business or what have
so
you.
you got to think about on my own. Eventually, all of us will be on our own. How will your partner or will you handle all of that? And
Yeah.
I know it sounds kind of morbid, but it's something of life. I mean, a lot of us figured that out during COVID when people were dropping like flies with COVID. It was like they were just 1 minute they were there, the next minute they were in the hospital.
I
and
think
they
it's
were,
still too soon for that statement. Dropping like flies.
Oh, well, people were really, really, really sick and just going away. And it's like 1 minute they were there, the next minute they were very, very sick. And then they never came back out of the hospital. That was
Right.
terrifying. And think about all of those succession plans. COVID came very quickly. I mean, out of the blue.
Mhm.
1 minute we were all fine doing everything. And the next day they do alert, cancel everything. So think about, we've already experienced an emergency. Oh my gosh, we can't be
Right.
near each other thing. So now that you have that perception in your head of what happens, how do you fix it before it happens again?
Right, and especially now that you got that idea. I mean,
Mhm.
you just said that, but you've went through it, you got that feeling of it, and it may not just be the fact that you've got a business partner. Maybe it's just something on your own that you actually own it, and it needs to be turned over to somebody else, whether it's your general manager or somebody else that's going to come along. What is your plan to do that? And that's actually part of your business plan.
Mhm.
If you think about it, it's part of your business plan, and your business plan is a living document. Plain and simple. It's constantly changing. So now that you have a rationalization of what could happen, how are you going to take care of it if it does happen? I think that's about all we got to cover on this. It's
It
pretty
really
simple.
is.
We've
It-
kind
it's-
of repeated ourselves in a
We
way.
have. Well, but the thing is it's something worth repeating because it's something that people don't like to talk about. It's not what we want to think about. Something that happened to me very recently that very touchy for me actually is my minister passed away. And we've always been talking about succession planning and all this, and we had it all set, and then we just kind of put it aside.
Mhm.
Well, the person we looked at, the two people we were looking at to replace the church head, moved.
Right.
So now that he's passed away, we don't have our succession plan anymore. It's like, holy smokes, we prepared and then we didn't because we didn't look back and we didn't say, oh, wait, these people have moved. These chess pieces are different. We
Right.
didn't go back and look. And so we failed the church because we failed to keep track of really what was going on with that succession plan.
Well, you bring up a good point too when it comes to life insurance.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen it where a couple are together, they get life insurance together, they plan properly, et cetera, and then they divorce,
And they leave it.
and then they totally forget about it. And then let's say the guy, he gets remarried, something happens to him, and then all the money in the life insurance policy goes to the ex. So have you checked those kind of things? You have to keep up on those kind of things to make sure that it's going to the right person, the right beneficiary. The plan is proper, because that can be pretty tragic. I mean, it happens in the military a lot
About to
because
say,
we
'cause,
didn't.
yeah,
We
saw
never
it
change
happen.
our SGLI. We don't think about changing it. We don't go into the orderly room or whatever they call it these days and go, "Hey, I got divorced and I don't want my ex-wife getting my money. Where do I sign?"
Or the other thing that happens, well, I've seen it happen where the let's say the spouse passes away, the female passes away,
Mhm.
and he's like, oh well, it's no big deal. She passed, so my policy, it's just going to go to my kids. Then he gets remarried.
Yep.
And then when he gets remarried, his wife is like, wait a minute, he just passed away, and it's like she never existed.
Mhm.
Or even worse, it goes to the new wife with the new kids, and then the other kids never get anything.
Right.
So you've got to be really careful about those policies and actually go look at them. I'm
Right.
speaking about that. We should probably go check mine out.
By the way, that's what I do. If you don't know, that's one of the things that I do.
Yes.
I can't
Which
tell
is-
you on the show, of course, who I
That's
do
why
it for
he's
and
leading this
stuff.
conversation.
Yeah, that's
I
all right.
mean, and so as we're traveling and I'm bouncing around states right now, I want you to realize that sometimes it's the hard conversations you need to be looking at.
Right.
As we approach the end of the year, yes, it's November. Yes, you can be grateful for everything you have, but you also want to be grateful for the things that you will leave.
Right.
You got to look at the ending, the end game,
Right.
end in mind.
Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're 21 or if you're 71. It depends on your business. How do you want to leave your business? Where do you want to leave it? Where does the money go to? How's it going to get taken care of? There's all these questions that I cannot answer.
Well, and that's
but
why,
I can help you.
Well, and that's why we wanted to
figure
talk
out the
about
questions.
it.
Yes,
we wanted to talk about it because remember 5 years ago, I got hit by a car.
Did you?
I got hit by a car.
Forgot about that.
The thing is I could have died that day.
This is true.
And we had nothing in place for me, only my husband.
Right.
And so that's when we realized I had a worth that I did not account for because I didn't think I was that worthy of being put a number on me
Right.
for insurance. And now we looked at it during that time and went, holy smokes, now we have to add a caregiver for me.
Mm-hmm. And another one too is single parents.
Yeah.
Single parents, they think they got everything taken care of. And, if something happens to me, my 2 kids that I'm taking care of are just going to go to my parents. They're just going to go to the parents. That means the parents all of a sudden have got 2 mouths to feed, 2 clothes or 2 bodies to clothe.
In their retirement years.
And possibly in their retirement years, things like that. So you can't just presume that you're going to turn all your kids over to your parents. Okay. And yeah, great. If they want to be the caregivers and stuff like that, that's great. But on the other side of it, what about their income? Their income may not be there to stabilize 2 more kids or 3 more kids.
Yeah.
Okay. In some places, like the guy across the street here, he's got like 6. Okay.
Well, and that's what we did with ours was in our succession plan for our family is our kids were going to my sister.
Right. And well, even godparents, we think about godparents. Well, that's kind of what they're there for in a way. But we also presume a lot of times when we don't think about the financial side, we presume that they're just going to all of a sudden take care of these kids. Well, that's 2 more mouths to feed. And as a wise man once said, and I cannot tell you who it was. Okay. I happened to hear it on an AM station one time when I was tuning in an old time radio. And this guy says, the worst thing to invest in? Anything that eats.
Oh.
If you think about it, you put your money into, I don't care if it's fish. They're costly. They cost extra money. Pets, dogs, cats, gophers, whatever.
Anything you have to feed. Horses are really, really expensive.
No, horses are expensive as can get out. But if you turn around and you're suddenly, let's say your mom and dad, and you're getting along and you just became empty nesters and everything. And next thing you know, you've got 2 grandkids to take care of. What does that do to your budget?
Well, hopefully whoever left them their kids also left them the money to take care of the
Exactly.
kids.
And that's why we have to look at these things. So whether it's in business, because you don't want to leave your business partner stranded out there in the middle of nowhere. Hey, don't leave me hanging. Know where that's from?
No.
Oh, don't leave me hanging, dude. That was from the old teen movies back in the 80s with, what's her name? The redhead. Molly Ringwald and that. 16 Candles. Where the Chinese guy looks over the top of the bed and looks down and says, don't leave me hanging, dude. Anyway.
I never watched 16 Candles.
Oh, those were the best movies.
I just didn't see that one.
The 16 Candles. I can't remember what they all were.
He was infatuated with Molly Ringwald.
Yes.
I wasn't. I liked Phoebe.
I liked Molly until she hooked up with Kevin McCarthy, I think it was.
Phoebe. Anyways.
Well, we're on our own if we don't have our idols to look up to.
That was an idol?
No, not really, but I was trying to think of another word.
Okay. Anyways, so what are you doing for your business? What are you doing for your family? You need to plan. And the reason why we're talking about this is it's the end of the year, and we all are talking about gratitude and thankfulness and thinking about the holidays. And sometimes you just got to think of all the happy, we think all the happy, joy stuff. We need to think the serious stuff because tomorrow's not promised.
Well,
So
and it doesn't matter whether it's the end of the year or not.
No, but that's when
this is something we have to do.
That's when people start thinking about it.
They really do, because they're around family and they don't know,
And then there's a lot of depression that goes on during this time. That's why I said, what was I singing the other day? It's beginning to look a lot like Depressmas. That wasn't what I said.
It was something.
Stressmas. Yeah, it's beginning to look a lot like Stressmas.
It's all the same.
But that's the thing is people start looking at their lives and doing, oh, I'm alone, or I don't have this in my life, and it's the end of the year and it's the new year,
Right.
and this is what I don't have, and I don't have, and that's why we wanted to talk about it today.
Well, being in a let's call it a depressed state, okay, or any kind of down state during this time of the season,
Mental state,
a down mental state, yeah. That doesn't mean you should go out and start, figuring everything out now.
No.
So it's not ready for the beginning of the year. You don't want to necessarily do it in that kind of an emotional state. But I'm not saying you should put it off either.
No, but I do think you should.
It's always something we should
go
take
look
care
for
of.
someone in your area that does estate planning or insurance and life
Mhm.
insurance and things like that. It's something to be put on your bucket list of things to
Right.
do soon.
Yeah. And one thing that you have to remember too is you can't leave your money to your minor children. Okay. If you try to leave your money to your minor children, somebody's got to be there somebody's got to be there to manage the
it.
money. Okay. That's number one. Number two, you can't do it legally anyway. So they have to be 18, which means you have to have a trust fund in place.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of
You leave them
weird things going
destitute
on.
until they get old enough to touch it. And it's
Yeah,
not-
pretty much.
That's not good. They'll put them in it's crazy.
Which is why you have executors and you have the what do they call them when somebody takes care of the kids? Guardians, yes.
Yeah, because I've seen it where military, we've been in the military, retired for a while now. But I remember a friend, her husband passed.
Mhm.
And when he passed, she immediately got kicked off the base. And they found out he did not sign up for SGLI.
Oh, goodness.
And it was a nightmare. And then they had 2 itty bitty kids, and he didn't have her on the checking accounts. So, I mean, when he died, everything died.
Right.
And they were in the shelter because they couldn't live. And so we're all trying to figure out how to help them. And what we ended up doing was putting money together and sending them back to her house, her parents' house,
Mhm.
because she had nothing.
Yeah. And if let's say you're in your 30s right now and you're thinking about this and we're talking about it and it's kind of motivated you to do this.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad that it's taking you this long to do it.
Just
either.
do it.
Just do it. Number one. Number two, I've seen people who are in their 60s and 70s who have the same problem. They never planned all of their life. Even in some of them, they even knew that the situation was going to happen. They just didn't know when.
Mm-hmm.
But they still never planned for it. And they're sitting out on the streets on their own right now. They have no idea what to do or where to go, how they're going to pay rent tomorrow.
Yes.
And
So it's a terrible scenario.
don't put yourself in that
So
position.
don't put yourself in it. Start
Figure it out
preparing now. And so that is it for Denim and Pearls. I mean, I think we've scared you enough today. But remember, we are big preparers. You need to prepare. And it doesn't say gloom and doom. It's prepare so good things can happen later. How about that?
And then of course, especially if you're in the local area here, I can always help you out and at least get you the questions to answer and all those other kind of things, because I do the financial business. I have a halfway understanding of what's going on.
Yes. So go.
I've only been doing it 22 years. It's no big deal.
Yeah, it just comes out of him. Like I talk, it comes out of him, insurance. So that's the thing, people. Be prepared and realize that it's up to us to be prepared in our business and in our lives. So go be the best version of you. Be unapologetic. Go be you.
Yes, most definitely be you.
Okay.
Are we done?
We are done. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel-ish. And until then, I don't know if I'll have internet where I go. So until then, be well, be safe, and
be prepared.
be prepared. Peace.
Peace.